Hello and welcome to Jank It Up Fuzzball, episode 19. I'm your host, Brian, aka Gideon Jank, Inferno Squad Commando. Spark of Hope is here. How excited are you? How excited am I? I hope you've had a chance to play with some new cards, to crack some packs, and see what it's all about. This episode, I want to plug our Legendary Box survey, and I want to talk about my own experience at a local box tourney in which I got to sit down for the first time with Spark of Hope cards and do my best at a box tournament. You'll recall last episode I talked about a box battle with Greg. We used legacy boxes, and that was a lot of fun. And then this time, a week later, I got to have another box battle, but this time using brand new Spark of Hope cards. So very, very cool. Before I get into that, I do want to touch on our new survey for the Spark of Hope release. If you're buying boxes and you would like to contribute to our Legendary Box Pool survey, you can do so at jankitupfuzzball.com/sparkofhope, all one word. There you'll find our Google form that you can plug in your 6 legendary cards. We also, I say we being Greg, my buddy Greg, helped me kind of refine the questions. We ask where you're from, and that's optional. And we also ask, did you buy locally from a game store, brick and mortar, so to speak, or did you order online? And that will also maybe give us an idea of regionally, which boxes went where and if there's any kind of bias in terms of what showed up in those boxes. I can tell you that right now we're less than a week into the release, and we've had 165 responses as of this moment. So thank you to everyone that has logged boxes. That I'm super appreciative. That is super great. And we've had, look at this. We've had a rally by Neiman Mastery. Neiman Mastery is now tied with R2D2. Each of them have 69 pulls out of 165 boxes. That's 41.8%. So they are tied atop the list for most frequently pulled. Least frequently pulled out of the sample size that we have is Django Fett, armed to the teeth. He has only been pulled 45 times, or 27.3% of the time. So kind of fascinating numbers. I know I wanted to pull a Django, and I did not. So I'm in the majority of people that did not pull a Django in terms of the survey. But I am interested. So if you've bought boxes, or you're buying boxes, or your boxes arrived late, or if you know what you pulled but you haven't put them in, then please consider heading over to jankitupfuzzball.com/sparkofhope and contributing to our survey. I've seen a few of them online on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, and I've asked if I could input them. So a few of them I've put in on my own, which is nice. But if you're just hearing this and you're like, oh yeah, I do have a box, then please feel free to contribute to our survey so we can see how it all shakes out over the course of the set. All right, so I went, for the second straight time, I went to a set release the weekend of the release, and it was a box tournament. Last time for Convergence, I had a great time, right? I went 0-4, which is not great, but I was ready. I've had a lot of practice since then. I've played a lot better. I'm ready to go back in and do it. And so this past weekend, we went to a local shop and participated in a box tournament. And I wanted to kind of give you a recap. What I pulled, what I built, how I did, and my thoughts on Spark of Hope set. And again, this is coming from a casual player. That's me. That's what this whole podcast is about. It's about me kind of finding my way through the game. If you're here for super competitive meta discussion, it's going to be light on that, of course. But there are always tidbits and things that we can talk about. So right away, I want to say that it was a lot of fun. I got my box. I showed up, got my box, and just sit down. And the first thing I did, you'll be happy to know, is I grabbed one pack and I set it aside. And I'm going to crack that pack today at the end of this episode. So I played the tournament having only cracked 35 packs. Now, that said, I can tell you that unless there was a mistake, the pack we're going to crack is going to be a rare, because I managed to pull all 6 of my legendaries while at the tournament. It did get down to the last pack. I literally had 1 pack left, and then the 1 pack I had set aside in my bag with only 5 legendaries. So there was a chance, had I pulled a rare, that the assumption is that this pack that's been in my bag was a legendary. Let's start from the top, though. The very first legendary I pulled as I was cracking packs was the Super Laser Siege Cannon. So that was one that was spoiled right at the very end, right? Days before release. And that's cool. It's red vellum. It's a support. All things I'm into. So I was pretty happy with that. I didn't think I would play it at the tournament because 5 cost still seemed like a lot. And also Desperate Measures is now a thing. And I was like, man, I don't know if I want to throw it into a limited contest like that. But that was my first legendary. I was okay with that. It wasn't the most, it wasn't the sexiest legendary. And, I was really hoping to pull a Django or a Maul. And so that didn't do it for me. So that's fine. I kept pulling through packs and I pulled a Han Solo. And that was great too. I was like, okay, Han, that's fine. He's a character. I need those for the tournament, right? I certainly need characters. But, he's not, I'm not a pro Han guy. He's fine, but I just don't play a lot of Han. The best Han, arguably, Han 3, I don't have any of. But, I'm happy to get this Han. And its point cost is good, right? It is good. So I was happy to do that. Next legendary was Neiman Mastery. And this is a card I really didn't spend a lot of time thinking about. But having pulled it, I'm super excited about it, right? I was like, all right, Neiman Mastery. It's 2 cost. It's a neutral blue upgrade. This is stuff that I can put in all kinds of Styx decks. Happy for that. Next one I got was C3PO. And I know there's been a lot of talk of the droids deck. And actually this past Monday, FFG came out and did the restricted list, which will at least prevent the droids from being paired with military camp. So that immediately kind of slows that down. But I feel like C3PO is probably the chase card of the set, or yeah, I would say that. I would say more so than R2-D2. At least right now in the immediate present, he's a chase card. So I was super excited to pull him. I don't know if I'll play him. I'm not going to go out and chase a second die for him. But that was cool, right? I mean, can't complain. My 5th legendary was Yoda's lightsaber, which I was also very excited about because here's a 1-cost blue upgrade, which is great for a sealed event. It's also great for the kind of decks that I ultimately want to build around. I have a Jedi deck that I'm working on, so that's something that can slot easily into there. So that's good. And then I told you how my last 2 packs, I had 1 legendary left. It happened to be the last pack I opened at the event, and that was Talisman of Resurrection. Wasn't super excited to see that. Now, I had pulled an old Daka and a couple of Night Sister zombies, so that was neat. So it was on theme for that. But I was like, it's a 3-cost upgrade. It has to go on a witch. The biggest thing, the most impressive thing that it can do is it can resurrect a character, but you have to have money equal to the point value of that character. And so I don't know how playable that's going to be. I could be very, very wrong, but I wasn't excited about it. But that was my 6th legendary. Now, no Django, no Maul. So I was a little bit bummed, seeing people around me. Oh, I got a Django, I got a Maul. And also I took flyers, little pieces of paper where people could list their 6th legendary, and they would return it to me, and then I would fill it in for the survey. I was in a room with, I would say, 18 or 20 other players, and so a lot of them filled out the survey. So that was cool. So as people would hand them in, I would kind of compare my 6 to their 6, and there were some great pulls. There were at least 3 people that pulled C3PO and R2-D2 in the same box. That is pretty awesome. It wasn't me, but it's okay. So my box is good. I was really excited about 3 of those cards, C3PO, just for being the chase card, and also the lightsaber and Neiman Mastery. Han Solo is fine. Super Laser Siege Cannon could be a beast, but it's going to take the right deck and then some luck to keep it on the table. And then the Talisman I'm not thrilled about. So that's what I got. Now, just like I did with last time, I have a list of all 36 dice cards that I opened. I'm going to include whatever I open at the end of this episode, and that is going to be on this episode's page on Jank It Up Fuzzball. If you're listening to this somewhat recently after it's released, you can go to Jank It Up Fuzzball, and you should see this episode 19, on the page that you could see what I pulled. If you've never played in a box tournament, just to recap the rules, there's no starter set, at least for this one. Basically, you show up with sleeves and tokens, and then whatever is in your box, you make a deck out of. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what else I drew in the box. Now, you're starting with 0 characters, so you kind of have to figure out what to do. And I only pulled 11 different characters, dice cards at least, which is not a lot, right? I mean, sometimes you can get too many characters, which is not ideal, but I still pulled 11. And so just to run through those, I pulled 2 different Dark Mystics, so that's a non-unique character. I pulled 1 copy of Old Daka. I pulled a copy of Yoda, so I was excited to get a copy of Yoda. Those were my only blue characters. Now, I did mention I got 2 Night Sister zombies, so those are 5-point blue characters that I could have used, but not in my primary character lineup, or I chose not to use them in my primary character lineup. As far as red, I had C-3PO. I mentioned that. I had one Conan Mati, Overconfident Officer, and I had one Gideon Hask, Inferno Squad Commando. And then from yellow characters, I had a couple of bounty hunters. I had Forlom and Zuckuss. I really wanted IG-88. I got shut out from Jango and IG-88, so I was kind of bummed there. I did get Han Solo. And then the only unique character that I could run elite turned out to be Wicket, Crafted Scout. So that was good. Out of my other dice cards, I actually had, I think, 4 others that I got multiple copies of. Let me see if that's correct. Let's go through this. So I had 2 copies of Untamed Power, but you have to spot an apprentice, and I really didn't have any apprentices. I had 2 copies of the GH7 droid. Again, I think I can live with just one of those in my entire collection, but that was 2 copies of that. And I had 2 copies of Han Solo's dice. So including Wicket, I had 4 duplicate rares. I had a lot of blue upgrades. Ancient Magics, Neiman Mastery, Neiman Training, Recovered Sith Lightsaber, Talisman of Resurrection, the 2 Untamed Powers, and then the Yoda's Lightsaber, which is great. I only had 1 red upgrade, which was Mastermind. And I had 4 yellow upgrades. The 000 Protocol Matrix, super happy to pull that. Gauntlet Rockets, and then the aforementioned 2 copies of Han Solo's dice. And then I also got a gray grappling arm, which is a mod for a droid. Supports, I had Professor Huang and Scimitar, or as Discard Reroll would pronounce it, Schmimtar, is that right? I had Cultural Records and the 2 GH7 droids, Resistance Trench Fighters, and the Super Laser Siege Cannon in red. And then I had, in yellow, Chief Chirpa's Hut and IG-2000, which I can only assume is IG-88's ship. So that was my box. And beyond that, I did get some other interesting cards I should mention. I got Order 66, the plot. I got 1 copy of Execute Order 66. I had a Ewok Warrior. I had 2 copies of Desperate Measures. And I had 2 copies of Counterintelligence. I also had, I believe, 5 hexes and like 6 traps. I had a lot of downgrades. And I think we'll all pull a lot of downgrades. But overall, the box wasn't, I don't know, it just doesn't feel amazing. It feels solid. It's got some good stuff, and I'm happy with some of my pulls. But at the same time, some of these cards, I'm just like, I don't know what to do with this. However, that's what I had to work with. So I had to build a deck using just that box. And I went to work, and immediately I started thinking Rainbow. I also like the idea of a 4 dice start. So I said, you know what? I'm going to run Wicket at Elite. He's only 10 points. I like the idea that I had 2 Night Sister zombies, and I had 1 copy of Old Daka. So I said, okay, I'm going to go Wicket. I'm going to go Old Daka. And then I wanted to get some red in there, and I had 10 points left. Then I chose Gideon Hask because he has 3 sides of damage. And he has a cool power action where if you control the battlefield, you can roll a trooper die on a card you control into your pool, and he is a trooper. So that was my 3. Now you notice I left off Han, I left off C-3PO, I left off Yoda. Hindsight, probably should have worked some of those in, but this is what I went with. And so then I put together a whole bunch of downgrades. I probably put too many downgrades. I was so excited by all the curses and the downgrades and the bounties that I probably put too much emphasis on that. Wicket, though, is super great because you can play, after you activate him, you can play a trap from your hand or from the discard pile. So you can always recur these traps. So I was excited about that opportunity. And again, I wanted to go Rainbow. So I had the best cards that I thought were from there. So I had my deck, and it was time to start the tournament. Now, it was kind of a loose tournament. You could have come and gone as you pleased. There was no prize support, so to speak. So it was just like playing, getting to know the cards, maybe trading with some players and things. But I sat down, the first gentleman I sat down against, his name is Richard, and he sits down with complete Raylo. And I was like, what the...
You watch your language.
I didn't pull a single Ray. I didn't pull a single Kylo. But here, Richard, out of a single box, pulled Elite Ray, Elite Kylo. And so all of a sudden he sits down, these 2 characters, didn't have the plot that allows you to play them together, didn't need it, right? This is sealed event, so the hero-villain rules don't matter. But he had a mono blue deck with all kinds of fun things in it. And I just got crushed. I mean, it was arguably not fun at some points because just the shield generation of that deck was amazing. And the synergy between Rey and Kylo and fixing dice was very, very strong. He also threw down a copy of Caretaker's Village, a support location, where after an opponent effect removes one of your Apprentice or Jedi dice, you may exhaust his support to roll that die into your pool. So that was super annoying. I will say the one time I used Desperate Measures on the evening, I feel, it was to get rid of the Caretaker Village. So I'm sorry, little Caretaker people, but you got blown up. I don't even know how close I got. I think I came reasonably close to killing Ray, but just shield after shield after shield, and then shields are moving, and then shields are, it was just bad. And I couldn't do it. I had Night Sister Zombies out. I had Wicket Elite. Hask, I think, died first because he is kind of the most aggressive character, and then Daka, and then Wicket. And that was it, right? It was just kind of a rough start. I kind of blamed it. Like, what are the odds, right? I mean, I think that deck, out of a sealed tournament, to have Elite Raylo, that's going to do fine. And I'm pretty sure Richard did really well on the rest of the night, but it was kind of a rough start.
You have no place in this story. You come from nothing. You're nothing.
So that was a loss. What are you going to do? Next game, I sat across from a gentleman named Brandon. He actually got there a little bit late, so he didn't play in the first match. So I was his first match, and he showed up with C-3PO, Forlom the Bounty Hunter, and Dark Mystic. So these are all cards that I had, right? So in theory, I could have made the same character pairing, but I didn't. I once again ran Elite Wicket, Old Daka, and Gideon Hask because I thought, well, I think it'll play better. I just ran into Raylo. I mean, that happens, right? But it didn't go a lot better for me. It was really, really tough. Brandon had eventually loaded up Forlom with lots of weapons, and it's just hard. I didn't have that many weapons. I did have some upgrades. I did get some upgrades out on Daka. I had some blue upgrades, blue character only. I got that out. Yoda's lightsaber, Neiman Mastery, right? That's good when it happens. But it's also just, it's just didn't work out in my favor. And he rolled well. That's part of the game, right? He rolled well. I'm proud of this game because at one point with Chief Chirpa's Hut, I actually had 2 zombie Night Sisters and an Ewok Warrior out in addition to my normal team. So I had an additional 14 health out on the table. Now, once Daka is defeated, then all those Night Sisters go away, and that's certainly what happened. But I was pretty happy with that because all of a sudden I went from a 3-character lineup to a 6-character lineup, which was pretty awesome. We were both playing bounties on each other or downgrades on each other because there's a lot of that. We both had Dead or Alive on another character, and that was really difficult. Just every time we activate that character, the other person would get a resource, and then once one of those characters was defeated, then you get another resource. So that is certainly pretty tricky. One card I did enjoy playing most games was Uncontrollable Rage. It's a downgrade, a curse, costs 1. But the action reads, exhaust this downgrade to deal 1 damage to attached character or 2 damage instead if you spot a witch. Use this action only if attached character is ready and it is not the first turn of the round. So what it essentially does is forces your opponent to activate that character right at the beginning of the round because otherwise you're going to ping them for 1 or possibly 2 damage. So even though I got this down on at least 2 of my games, I never got to ping anyone because they were just like, well, I activate. And, that kind of backfires because I would often put it on the target that I would want to knock down first. So in this case, I think it was on Forlom. And he would just activate Forlom. And Forlom had a couple of weapons on him. So it's like, I couldn't slow play that because his first action would be to get the big guy out into the pool. And then it's like, well, that's not great often. So what are you going to do? It didn't go well for me. I did make an improvement off the previous game because I actually killed a character, right? I focused all my energy in getting rid of C-3PO, and I finally knocked him down. So I did kill a character. I think that the greatest moment of having killed a character was that I could play Crimson Star, which is a villain upgrade equipment, red, 0 cost. And it says, play only if an opponent has 1 or more defeated characters. So I was able to get this down. I forget who I got it down on exactly, but it has an action, which is to exhaust this upgrade to resolve one of attached characters' character dice, increasing its value by 1. So I'm pretty sure I put this on Gideon, but my opponent, Brandon, was really good about just removing or kind of controlling Gideon's dice. So I couldn't really take too much advantage of it. But I think it's a cool card. It's an uncommon. I got 2 of these Crimson Stars, so I'm curious to try to put them to work in a red villain deck. But I lost. I couldn't hold up against Forlom's attack, and the Dark Mystic also throwing some heat, and little squishy Wicket wasn't getting it done. So I'm 0-2, and dating back to last set, I'm now 0-6 in a sealed box tournament opening night, right? Not counting Greg's battle. That was a lot of fun, but I'm very familiar with the Legacies block at this point. So, I had an idea of what to do with those characters and with those cards. Here, we're all reading the cards. I know we made some misplays. I made some misplays just because we're not yet familiar with the cards. But I was a little bit bummed. I was a little bit discouraged. And I saw, 4-LOM is 12 health, and that's important in a sealed event, having more health. And so going into my third match, I said, even though it's 2 dies, Wicket is just 7 and squishy. And so I ditched Wicket. In order to fit someone into that 10 cost range, I went with Zuckuss, who's a bounty hunter. He has 10 health instead of 7 health, and he has some direct damage sides instead of 1 direct and 1 indirect side, but 1 less die. So I had a 3 die start as opposed to 4, and I was like, this is it. I'm going to really try to power through and do some good stuff. I changed out a few cards in my deck just to try to take advantage of things I noticed in the first 2 games. And I sat down against Trey from Kingwood Hobbies.
I got a bad feeling about this.
He's top forward at a regional. He's very good. And immediately, it didn't take long for me to understand that certain players just see the game differently. It's like seeing through the matrix, and I just realized that I don't see it that way. So it was a fun game. But one of the things, I immediately spawned a Night Sister zombie with Old Daka, and I put it on the table, and then Trey reminded me, hey, you gotta exhaust that. Because it does. It comes in exhausted. And I've already played 2 full games where I would get the Night Sister zombie in, and then as an action in that same turn, I would exhaust her to deal damage. So that's on me. I didn't RTFC, right? I didn't read the card. And so I misplayed there, but Trey was the first person to kind of call me out and say, yeah, that comes in exhausted. He was playing Old Daka, so he had kind of the same thing on his mind, but he also had a Mud Trooper and then 4-LOM again. So couldn't get away from 4-LOM, 12 health, pretty nice. A couple of really interesting plays I thought was, I got my Night Sister out. She was exhausted, but I got to play another card. It's an uncommon called Destiny Fulfilled. It's 0 cost. It's hero blue. It has a great picture of Kanan Jarrus from Rebels on it. And it says, it's an event. It says, defeat one of your characters to give 3 shields to your characters, distributed as you wish. So I thought I was being very clever. I used this card to defeat my Night Sister zombie, and I gave Old Daka 3 shields. I was pretty excited about that, right? Because I can keep spawning. Now I can spawn a new Night Sister zombie every turn, but the key there is I need to keep Daka alive. So I was feeling pretty good about that play. And those shields never went away. It was great. Those shields stayed on for the entirety of Old Daka's life. The problem that I had is that Trey put a DX2 Disruptor Blaster Pistol on 4-LOM. That's a pretty good weapon for 2 cost. But what's more important and significant is that it says damage dealt by this die or by a die that it modifies is unblockable. That's important for me to understand, but I didn't pick up on it until it was too late. Because Daka had taken some damage before I put the shields on, and then he used the unblockable, which is fine. I was like, well, I still got health and shields, but it just didn't stick in my head. And so, one of the turns, I think it was turn 2, he killed her. The shields just stayed on. But using that pistol, he just created unblockable damage that just took her out. And it was a sad moment. It was as close to scooping as I wanted to do, because I just played poorly at that point. I'm not paying attention. I'm thinking I'm all good with shields, and I wasn't. And I couldn't do anything about it. That was tough. The best play besides that, what I thought was amazing, and this is what kind of next leveled it for me, is that Trey created his own Night Sister zombie, and then he put Tico Pendant on the Night Sister zombie. Tico Pendant is a 0 cost hero upgrade equipment. It has an action that says exhaust this upgrade to move 1 damage from another character to attached character, or up to 2 damage instead if the other character has a copy of this upgrade on it. He didn't get out a second copy of it, but I actually pulled 2 of these. But they weren't in my deck. They were just in my box because I wasn't really thinking about it. But Trey used this to pull damage off of Old Daka and just put it on an expendable Night Sister zombie. This made it really difficult for me to try to kill someone. I got frustrated. I was on tilt. I was kind of already on tilt for losing the first 2 matches, but even after I made Daka my primary target, He started pulling damage off of her, and then I just somehow decided to turn into Forlom. It was bad. I played poorly. I just felt completely outclassed by a more experienced player, and I did scoop, right? Once he knocked off Gideon, and Oldaka was dead, and my own Zuckuss was down to like 4 health, I was just like, Trey, I'm done. I can't do it. And so it was 0-3 at that point. 0-3. I was really focusing on, okay, what are the lessons learned? Maybe I do need to play C3PO. Maybe I should get that legendary character out. Maybe I do need to play Forlom to get more health. And I started sleeving up my next deck. And at this point in the evening, some people were already kind of taken off. And I just called it. I said, you know what? I'm already pretty frustrated. I'm already on tilt. Nothing good is going to happen from playing a 4th match. And I just called it a night. Gathered my cards. Had I been in a better mindset, I would have maybe hung around and seen if people wanted to make some trades. But I was just kind of defeated. I was kind of crushed because I didn't do well, right? So if you're scoring from home, I'm 0-7 lifetime at a opening weekend sealed box tournament. And what's worse is, at least when I played the Convergence, those 4 games were close. I had Palp, I had a lot of interesting things. These 3 games were not close. In fact, I played 3 matches. There were 8 total characters I faced off against, and I killed 1. I managed to kill the perfect gentleman, C3PO, in my match against Brandon. But no one died against Trey, and then I couldn't kill Ray and Kylo against Richard. It was a tough night. And I think what it underscored for me is that I'm a casual player, and I don't play with the frequency to really start to see the game at a more competitive level. I'm okay with that. I'm not complaining. It's just how I play. I don't have the time to really play more frequently than I do. And I'm not in a location. I had to drive 35 minutes out to this box tournament. It's not in my backyard. I can't just pop over. And my evenings aren't free to the extent that I can play at a normal weekly meetup. It's just not going to happen. And I won't lie. I have my ticket to Worlds, and I have my plane booked. I just need to get my accommodations. But it did give me pause as I sat there and kind of put my things together, is that I am just going to get rolled at Worlds, right? On the plus side, I'll have a deck that I will actually have. It'll be jank. I'm sure it'll be jank. But I'll have a deck that I'll have played with. I'll be familiar with. I'll understand better what win conditions might be and things like that. So I'm not saying I'll get rolled. I could very well get rolled. But still, this was a tough evening of playing Destiny. I was excited to get the cards. It's always exciting to get the cards, but it was a tough evening of Destiny. It was kind of a tough drive home, just because, I don't expect to win, but I expected those games to be closer, and they just weren't. And so some days you have great days, and some days you have bad days. And from a gameplay perspective, it was a bad day. For an event, it was a lot of fun. Everyone was super nice. They filled out my survey. My opponents were all super nice. We were all playing kind of loose, so if we made a mistake, we would take it back. We're all learning the new cards, so I think that is exciting. In the days since, I've kind of gone through the cards I pulled, and sure, there are some cards that I'm not excited about, but there are other cards that I am excited about. And just this morning, I took a trip to Kingwood Hobbies. Trey was actually looking for some legendaries to complete some saga sets, and that talisman ain't doing nothing for me. So I managed to trade that talisman in for a series of cards, including Elite IG-88, which is a character I wanted. I didn't get any in my box, so I'm super happy about that. I picked up some other rares as well, and it was good, right? I'm feeling better about it. But the event itself, oof, man, I am not good. The good news is that I'm over my little pity party from the evening, right? I'm feeling better about it. I already have deck ideas that are building up and ramping. I've already added some new cards to a brand new Afra build that I put together now that I have Elite Afra. And I've added a whole slew of blue cards from Spark of Hope to my single die Luke 3 Elite Convergence Obi-Wan deck. So Neiman Training, Neiman Mastery, Yoda's Lightsaber, all kinds of other cards have kind of Jedi Mind Trick. I pulled that as well. Those are all going in there. And it sounds like Greg is coming over tomorrow night. So I'm going to have some fun stuff to run. I hope he doesn't listen to this before that, because I just Just said what decks I'm going to have, but who knows? But that was a lot of fun. So I'm still all in on box tournaments. I think there are a lot of fun. I just need to become a better player. But I would certainly do it. Greg told me that, on a quick aside, Greg told me that after the release of my last podcast, the super cheap box of Awakenings era stuff that I had talked up was no longer available. So I don't know if that's just purely coincidence or if a few of you went out and bought them up. But good on you. Good on you if you did that. Box tournaments are a lot of fun, and I'm still going to do it. In the immediate aftermath, I said, I think I'm done. I don't think I need to go back and do another box tournament at the next set's release. But who am I kidding? I love this game, and as long as I have the time and the means to do it, there's no better way than sitting down and just cracking open a whole bunch of packs, throwing together a deck, and seeing what you can do. And I'm 0-7, but that's gotta end sometime, right? That streak can't go on forever, right? I mean, I hope. What about you? What about your Spark of Hope experience? What do you have? What are you excited for? I'll tell you, I'm excited for Gideon Hask. I don't play games like video games, so I don't know who he is. Just like I don't really know who Iden Versio was until Destiny, but I am super excited about him. He's a trooper. He's 13. Now that I have IG-88, I think I'm gonna pair the two of them up, or maybe throw in Snoke, single dice Snoke for IG-88, and go from there. I'm excited about Ewoks. If you've seen the Golden Dice stream where Ewoks just wrecked Jango Tarkin, that was crazy fun. I only have one Ewok warrior, and I have Wicket, but I have a whole bunch of traps, and I'm already kind of scheming for using the cards I have, get C-3PO in there, or maybe just 2 Jedha Partisans and just tap that Ewok and then make them discard 2 cards off their deck. I mean, there's all kinds of things I have, ideas I have floating around. But what about you? If you have ideas, especially janky stuff, I'm all in on the janky stuff, right? We'll see how the competitive meta shakes out. That's not my job, but that's going to happen. We'll see how that shakes out. I am excited about some of these cards, and I hope you are too. All right, we're winding up. It's getting a little bit later, so I want to go ahead and open this pack of Spark of Hope. So how about that? Spark of Hope. This is the 36 pack from my box. It's probably going to be the game changer, right? It's probably, had I opened this instead of like Professor Huang, maybe I could have won a match. No, I'm kidding. That's not going to be it. It shouldn't be a legendary unless there's an error, so that streak will continue. But let's see what it is. Here's a Star Wars Destiny Spark of Hope booster pack. Let's open it up. And if the dice is yellow, I'm going to throw it across the room. Totally kidding. But we have a run on yellow, and I'd really like for it to be something other than yellow. Here we go. The die is red. Hey, look at that. The die is red. And oh my gosh, this is a card that I want that I did not get. So I guess I did technically get it, but this is a card I want. So let's go straight to there. The rare is the ATRT. It is a 2-cost support vehicle. It is neutral. Its die reads +1, +1, +2, +2, +3 for a resource, and blank. The text is, the modifier sides of this die can be resolved with one of your trooper dice showing any symbol. So any symbol this can modify. And again, +1, +1, +2, +2, or +3 for a resource. I wanted one of these, and I got one. And that makes me super happy. So hooray for Jank It Up Fuzzball for finally getting something that is super great. I'm going to immediately slot this into my Rex Kez deck, and not tomorrow, but another day, I'm going to torture Greg as best I can with it. So that is super exciting. Could that have helped me? Maybe. I mean, that could have helped me with Gideon. Gideon was out there, so who knows? But I'm super happy to have that. Hey, look at this. This is great. My uncommon is a youngling. Didn't have any younglings, so I pulled a youngling. It is a 4-cost youngling. I'm sorry. Yeah, 4 cost, 4 health. It's a character apprentice. This is one of the diceless characters. Include only if you have a Jedi on your team. Power action, play a blue upgrade from your hand onto this character, decreasing its cost by 1. So that's awesome. I didn't have one. I got one. Look at that. Both cards so far out of the pack. Super exciting. All right. Can we keep it going? Can we keep it going? Next up, 3 commons. This is Chancellor's Edict, a 1-cost downgrade bounty. It is villain. It's got a great picture of Dooku with 2 lightsabers crossed across his neck. After this downgrade is played, remove all shields from attached character. After attached character is defeated, you may give a character 2 shields. So this is the first blue bounty we have. It's 1 cost. This gives me a playset. This gives me my 2nd copy of it. And if you're running Asajj, she's the only blue bounty hunter. you can include this, right? Now, you can run blue characters and then try to put the bounty hunter mask on them, which will make them a bounty hunter. But obviously, you gotta find that. So that's Chancellor's Edict. Next up is Hull Breach. It is 1 cost. It is a red neutral event. Remove one of your dice showing damage to either discard a support from play that costs equal to or less than the value showing on the removed die, or deal that much indirect damage to an opponent. This is an interesting card, and I think it will see play, certainly in my janky decks, because it will allow you to destroy a support if necessary, or you can just turn any die if you have a 2 disrupt or a 2 focus that you can't use. You can play this and then turn that into indirect. So it gives you that flexibility to turn any die side into indirect. And lastly, acceptable losses. Yeah, I had to end on a downer. This is a 0 cost gray event. It is villain. Defeat up to 3 of your characters to gain that many resources. Whew, what you got? I mean, I don't know at what point you would strategically include this in a deck unless you're running a super wide deck, right? It is villain, so it couldn't be Ewok centric, but you could run Night Sisters, I guess, and then if you had enough up there, you could defeat 3 of them and gain that many resources. That could be a strategy. It's got cool art on the card, by the way, of battle droids firing down a corridor. But yeah, acceptable losses, this is kind of the bust of the pack. But hey, seriously, this is a solid pack, right? ATRT, that's the rare. I'm super excited about that. A Youngling, super excited about that. Chancellor's Edict, that's a good blue bounty. Hull Breach, very flexible red neutral event. And then acceptable losses. Well, we'll give you a pass. But that's it. What a great pack. That's super exciting. So hey, I hope Spark of Hope has been good to you. I hope if you're cracking boxes and packs, you'll consider submitting those legendary pools to our survey. Once again, jankitupfuzzball.com/sparkofhope. And I hope you're enjoying the set. It's a new set. It's exciting, and it will be exciting to play. I'm really, really excited, and I look forward to playing tomorrow night with Greg. So always good to have a Destiny buddy that you can count on. And that's Greg. So thank you, Greg. Looking forward to our games. Looking forward to showing you some new cards since you don't have any, and make him jealous. In the meantime, I know you got new cards. I know you're worried about the competitive meta, but if you're not, if you're more like me, or if you just want a kind of a simple break, please play some jank, roll some dice, have some fun. We'll talk to you soon.